How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? It's Steve here from Daydreamer Gaming, back with Premier League preview and prediction. It is game week 7. We are already at the end of September. Next week, unfortunately, there is no Premier League action. It's another boring international break. We don't like those, do we? We don't like those at all. So as I says, it is game week 7, and I am gladly telling you that I am playing this week's game on FIFA 18. It is finally here. Just my very, very quick review of the game, of what I've played of it so far. Really, really enjoying it. Bit of improvement from the last game. Some things are very much the same, menus, etc., etc. But you know, the update and the licensing and the passing and the gameplay has slowed down. It's just overall a little bit of a better experience, so I'm very much enjoying it. I'm going to be doing some Ultimate Team streams going forward as well, and other Daydreamers are going to be chipping in with some FIFA 18 content. Let's get into this. So let's skip all this so that we don't get a nice copyright on the go. Okay, so into the fixtures for the weekend. So the first one, the 12:30 kickoff, is Huddersfield against Spurs. So Huddersfield have had a great start to this Premier League, newly promoted side, and they face a Spurs side who have struggled a little bit at home, but away from home they have been fantastic, and Harry Kane is absolutely on fire at the moment. He cannot stop scoring. Hat-trick in the week in the Champions League. That is his 6th hat-trick of 2017 alone. He's really coming into his own, really showing that, you know what, he really could be a world-class striker. For this game, I am going to go for a Spurs win. I think they will be too strong for Huddersfield, but Huddersfield potentially won't make it easy, but it will be, the scoreline will make it look fairly comfortable, in my opinion. Next up, we have Bournemouth versus Leicester, so a game that both teams need to win. Both teams find themselves at the wrong end of the Premier League table. Bournemouth are 19th, Leicester are 17th. Leicester's record slightly skewed, in my opinion, given the opposition that they have played so far. They've played 4 of last season's top 5 and 2 of the newly promoted sides, only one of them being at home, and that was Brighton, but a game that they won very comfortably. Again, like I said, this is a fixture that both teams really, really need to win. It could be a very interesting game down at the South Coast. Is Eddie Howe's job in any danger? I don't know. He's a bit of a golden boy, isn't he? So it's an unknown at the minute, but you know, Premier League survival for all these teams is massive just because of the money involved these days. So interesting times ahead. I'm going to go with heart over head on this one. Sorry, head over heart, and I'm going to go with a Leicester win, what with me being a Leicester fan and all. Next up is Manchester United versus Crystal Palace. So United are in fine form, scoring for fun, not conceding many goals, which is the total opposite to Crystal Palace, who cannot stop conceding and cannot score a goal. They literally have not scored a goal so far in the 6 Premier League games that they've had, which is a new record, not just for the Premier League, but for the whole of professional football. I think they're the first team ever to go 6 games, the first 6 games without scoring. Not a record any team wants. Roy Hodgson's obviously in there now. He's got a lot of work to do, and it does look very bleak for Palace. They did get battered by a very good Man City side in the last Premier League game, and it doesn't get any easier by playing United, and United at home, they're just phenomenal at the minute. I can see this potentially being high scoring in terms of United, all one way. Football is funny though, you know, this could be a game that ends up being United win 1-0 or 2-1 or something. You know, it's not guaranteed that they're going to absolutely thrash them. However, that said, I've got to go with a Manchester United win. I would be stupid to do otherwise. Stoke versus Southampton next. So Stoke, a usual sort of Stoke start to the season. They beat Arsenal, they've won a couple, but then they've kind of faltered a little bit recently. And Southampton very much the same. They're not scoring a lot of goals. They have won a couple, they've picked a couple of points up. They find themselves a bit lower down the table. Well, Southampton are kind of mid-table, Stoke are nearer to the bottom, around 16th. So, I mean, this game, there's not really a lot to talk about really with this one. It's probably going to be a draw, isn't it? You know, both teams don't score a lot, they don't concede a lot really. It's going to be a draw. It's not one that excites the neutral, I've got to be honest. The same goes, unfortunately, in my opinion, for the next game, which is West Brom versus Watford. So, West Brom, again, they've done what West Brom do. They're pretty good at home, they're pretty solid at the back, but they have lost a couple of games that you wouldn't expect them to lose, potentially. So, Watford have surprised a few. So, despite the thrashing that they got from Man City, which, to be fair, a lot of teams have recently. City have scored for fun, but I'll cover that in a bit. Yeah, Watford have done a lot better than people thought. Marco Silva's doing a great job there. He's going to keep them up. They're not going to go down. There are definitely three worse teams in the league than Watford. Again, this is a game that doesn't really excite the neutrals, but I'm pretty sure for the West Brom fans and the Watford fans out there, you'll definitely be wanting your team to put a great performance in. I'm going to sit on the fence again with this one, and I'm going to call it a draw. West Ham face Swansea at the Olympic Stadium. So West Ham were unlucky last time out against Tottenham, losing 3-2. They did go down, pretty early on, 2-0 by half-time, I believe it was, and the game looked dead and buried. Spurs had a man sent off after they'd made it 3-0, and West Ham made a game of it second half and came back into it, but they did unfortunately lose. Swansea, again, another one that they've faltered a little bit. They're still looking for their first win in 3 or 4 games. The biggest disappointment so far, perhaps for Swansea, is Bonny hasn't scored a Premier League goal yet, I don't believe, and Renato Sanchez looks well off the pace. He looks very, very disappointing. I really hope that he does show why he's rated so highly, why he won that Golden Boy award a couple of years ago. So it could just be a case of adjusting to the Premier League. And once he does, he's then on fire and he's scoring for fun and playing well and setting up and assisting. But it's not looking like that at the minute. This for me points to a home win. I think West Ham perhaps need it. Might relieve a little bit of pressure on Bilic. Bilic is still one of the favourites to be the next manager sacked. Rafa Benitez is constantly linked despite him being in charge at Newcastle. So a bit of a strange one that, but I am going to go with a West Ham win. Now, the big game of the weekend is Chelsea versus Man City. So both teams are in superb form. Since that opening day defeat, Chelsea have not looked back, and they've won every game apart from the Arsenal game, which they drew 0-0. Alvaro Morata, which is easy for me to say, has settled in the Premier League very, very quickly. Hat-trick last week against Stoke, already on 6 goals for the season. There's a long way to go, and it'd be interesting to see how he does in the winter months when when it's freezing cold and those 5:30 kickoffs on Boxing Day. Let's see how he copes then. He's used to a winter break. But Chelsea playing fantastic, and Man City, wow! What can you say about Man City at the minute other than wow? I think it's something ridiculous, like 16 goals in their last 3 league games. They won again in the Champions League midweek. Bad news for Man City though is the injury to Benjamin Mendy. It looks like he's out for the season. He tore his ACL. Initially it looked like he'll just be out for a couple of weeks, just a knee injury. Turns out it was a tear, which rules him out for the rest of the season, which is really unfortunate. It looked like he was playing well, he looked like he settled well, and he's become very popular, especially on social media. He's very, very entertaining on Twitter, so he'll have a fair bit of time on his hands, so hopefully he keeps those of us that follow him on Twitter entertained for the rest of the season. And also this week, Sergio Aguero breaking a rib whilst in Amsterdam. So he was in a car crash. He was in a taxi going back to the airport. Private jet was taking him back to Manchester, presumably, and the car crashed and he's broken his rib. So my opinion on this is it was his day off, and do you know what? From England, it doesn't take that long by flight to get to Amsterdam, and he was flying back that night. So why not? I mean, these guys are professional footballers; they can afford to do it. And Christ, it was his day off. You know, if I went to Amsterdam on my day off and ended up in a car crash and broke my rib, I'm pretty sure work wouldn't batter an eyelid. They might kind of ask what I was doing there, but it wouldn't matter. You know, these guys have lives as well. But anyway, let's not concentrate too much on that. Let's concentrate on this game that could be an absolutely superb game. Could be very cagey as well. Could be a very tight affair. It's really hard to tell which way this game is going to go. I'm really struggling to call this one. As I say, both teams are absolutely on fire, and I think if any manager is going to be cautious, it will be Conte. I think he will be the more cautious out of the two. So, I don't know. It's a tricky one to call. Okay, let's go for it. Man City win. Let's go for a Man City win on this one. I could be really wrong on that. Who knows? May end up 0-0. Who knows? That's why we predict these things. So they're the Saturday fixtures out of the way. So the main one there is obviously Chelsea versus Man City. So I've gone for a Spurs win, I've gone for a Leicester win, I've gone for a United win, I've gone for Stoke Southampton draw, West Brom Watford draw, a West Ham win, and I've gone for a Man City win, but I'm really not sure about that last one. On to the Sunday fixtures. So Arsenal face Brighton. So Arsenal have picked up a couple of results recently. It's got them firing again after a really tricky start for them at the start of the season. They face a Brighton side who picked up a win last week against Newcastle. Their striker, whose name escapes me, has got himself into trouble and got himself a 3-game ban. So that's a huge blow for a side who don't have great striking options as it is. I can only see this result going one way, to be honest, and I'm going for an Arsenal win. We then have the underperforming Everton against the very steady Burnley. So Everton are not pulling up the trees that people thought they would, and even midweek they drew in the Europa League in a game that you would think they would have enough to win. I don't know if Koeman is under pressure, but I did hear this morning that the odds for him to be the next Premier League manager sacked have gone right into 2-1, which is very, very surprising. He would have been, at the start of the season, he would have been probably in the same bracket as Mourinho, Guardiola, Conte, those sorts of managers to be sacked, and he's come right in at 2-1, which I would imagine would make him probably second or third favourite, maybe behind Benitez and Bilic maybe. So yeah, interesting at Everton. It seems to me, and I've said this before, that they didn't replace Lukaku. They didn't get a goal scorer. You know, it's all well and good Rooney coming back, and it's all well and good signing Sigurdsson, who is a great player in his own right, but there is no pace up there. There is no real power, and there's not a 20 to 25 goal a season striker, which Lukaku is and was at Everton. So that's where I think Everton's are falling down at the minute. Burnley are doing what Burnley do. You know, they're doing enough to get themselves through, and Sean Dyche has done a great job. He's establishing Burnley as a Premier League team. He'll never get talked about in the same breath as if he was a Spanish manager or an Italian manager or a German manager, but he is doing a great job there, and fair play to the Ginger Mourinho. I'm going to go for a draw in this game, which will not be a great result for Everton or for Koeman, but will be a great result for Burnley. And the final game of this weekend's fixtures is Newcastle versus Liverpool. Now this one is a fixture that usually produces a lot of goals. Newcastle at home, who knows? You know, they can be great, they can be poor, and the fans can turn on them very quickly, or they can get behind them like no other team in the country. Liverpool, fantastic going forward. Coutinho looks like he is in great form again. He was superb against Leicester last week, really was great. But the questions about Liverpool at the back are always going to be there, and Klopp has had 3 windows to sort this out and he still hasn't. I know they were after Van Dijk and they didn't get him, probably because Coutinho didn't go, but it's no excuse really. But it could make for an entertaining game. I am going to go for a Liverpool win in this one though. So that is my weekend roundup. So just to go over the Sunday fixtures again, I have gone for an Arsenal win, I've gone for Everton Burnley draw, and I've gone for a Liverpool win away at Newcastle. In other football news this week, Carlo Ancelotti has found himself out of a job after losing 3-0 to PSG in the week. If Bayern Munich side haven't started the season very well, Dortmund find themselves top of the German league, and Ancelotti is out of a job, which again, he's won a trophy, and a season or 2 later he's lost a job pretty much like he did at Chelsea as well. So someone is going to benefit from having a very, very good manager, because he will not be out of a job for long. And it would be great if he came back to the Premier League, because he's a superb manager. So that was just a little bit of football news away from the Premier League. As I say, next weekend is, well, there is an international break, so probably not going to be any sort of prediction video from myself, because England will probably win their qualifier, but there we go. They'll probably just win 1-0 or something like that. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I know it's a little bit short and a little bit sweet, and it may have seemed a little bit rushed compared to my other videos, but I'm still trying to work out what the best format is for these videos. Please make sure that you like, share, subscribe to Daydreamer Gaming. Check out all the other content that goes on this channel, not just FIFA, all sorts of games, but there is going to be even a lot of FIFA content coming over the next, well, for the remainder of the season, I hope. The final thing from me is, if you head on over to gamerborn.co.uk or fatalgrips.com, you guys do get a 10% discount at the checkout. Just put in the code DDGaming. I hope you all have a great weekend. I hope your team brings you the result that you want, unless you are a Bournemouth fan. Sorry guys, my team need a win. Okay, have a great weekend guys. I'm going to finish playing this game, which I think I have on a far too easy a setting, because I'm now winning 6-0. So yeah, perhaps need to put it up a notch, don't I? Okay, that's me signing out. Have a great weekend guys. See you all very soon.
Because of a hat-trick. Yeah, he won't forget this day in a hurry. Top stuff from him. One team really on their game today, the other very off colour. Morata. Out for a throw, and over the touchline. Fernandinho. Kevin De Bruyne. Well, they talk about football being a passing game, and you can keep it short, you can go long, you can be direct, you can keep possession. And he shoots from long range. Brave to take that on, Alan. He wasn't far away.
He's got a history of finding the back of the net from these distances.
And the manager, Alan, is making this change here. Substitution will take place.
Pleasure to be here to see it, Martin, and he'll be grabbing that match ball at the end of this match.
Praise for trying the shot, Alan.
Well, his teammates aren't too happy.
Quite an effort from that distance. Just got it too high.
Well, a bit ambitious there, to say the least, and his teammates giving him some stick for trying to shoot from that distance.
Now they've got a chance in this part of the pitch. Was an opportunity to really put some pressure on the defenders, but the ball was a woeful one, too high. It's the man of the match, I think we should say, the central midfield player. I don't want to put words into your mouth, my friend, but he seems to have been in control of pretty much everything that's been good for his team.
Yeah, I think he takes the honours.
It's a foul made by Raheem Sterling. Conte. That's a wonderful tackle. Aguero. Able to cut that out with some sharp movement. Morata. This could lead to a chance. It's good attacking play. John Stones. Kept out by Thibaut Courtois. Well, the corner count rises and rises. He's put in the corner. He scored! Slow and steady wins the race. It certainly gives the goal here. Fantastic football, really, to lead to a goal like that.
Well, it was a beautifully struck corner, and the finish was deadly.
It's a tough game for the team that are trailing. They're out of the contest, really. They're just playing for pride. They're really being torn apart. Morata. Tackle goes in. Yaya Toure. Stones. And a crack! It's behind for another corner. Got his shot off now, and he's taken the chance beautifully. He took the low road here, the low route, and it was the right route to get this goal. So Manchester City score here.
Well, they've got power, they've got height, and when the corner's that accurate, only one end result.
Well, we're in the last few minutes now. Well, the game has run its course here, and there's the final whistle. It was absolutely... Gabriel.